This is The Baseline, discussing the hot button topics of the NBA. Welcome, everybody. You're tuned to The Baseline. Callie Warrenshaw discussing the hot button topics of the NBA. NBA season is already on the way. Weeks worth of games already pretty much in books. A lot of things that kind of make you say, okay, I see where we're going with this. And there is also that we knew where this was coming, or we knew where this was going. So without further ado, let me go around the red carpet to my right-hand man, www.shawsports.net, Big Kahuna PNC. My man, Mr. Warren Shaw, ripping out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and all places beyond. What's good, my brother?
Good to be here, man. And this NBA season is upon us. I'm fresh off of a trip to Memphis where I got to see the hometown Grizzlies in their home opener. So it was an exciting time, man. On my, we've always said on the baseline, we've wanted to do kind of like the arena tours. So I was able to get Memphis off to the FedEx Forum off my list. So pretty excited about that, man. And taking note of all this NBA action.
I got it. That means I got to find one, to ride out to for me to be able to help. How many we got to knock off the list?
Oh, there's quite a few. There's quite a few. So
I mean, we're obviously, having to, split the assignments up.
Yeah. And I think that'd be our best course of action. I wouldn't mind taking one for the team and going to OKC. No, I know a lot of people like, oh, my wife's like, I don't want to go to Oklahoma City. I'm like, it's an amazing environment. So I'd go there and, I'd go to Sacramento just to see if they can light the beam and those types of things or whatever. So there's a lot of great cities out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Fieldhouse. I'm actually tempted to go to Fieldhouse. It doesn't always have to be about the WWE. Yeah, totally, man. And I like that idea. I like that concept because I think if you're a fan of basketball, the only way that you really can appreciate and understand, quote unquote, the psyche of a fan is being in the surroundings or the environment of who they and where they, represent. And listen, we've been fortunate because we've been able to travel to some of those, all-star weekends and have had the opportunity to partake in the city's festivities of celebrating NBA and its all-star weekend and the lore and, New Orleans, Dallas, Houston. So we've been to a few spots, you know what I'm saying? And we were actually a part of, quote unquote, the coming of sports to land in Las Vegas, right? Like, true. All that was supposed to be was just casinos and mobsters. Now, right? You've got hockey, you've got the Raiders. I mean, Las Vegas. That was a straight jack move if I ever seen one. It's
a full-time jack move.
So it won't be too long, right? Summer League is out there and stuff. Still one of the bedrocks of what kind of sparked the whole movement of sports. Being in that city and everything. So looking forward to it. Definitely, though, that's going to be on our bucket list. We'll be traveling to Seattle when they actually bring back the Supersonics.
Yeah. All
right.
I need these billionaires to stop building arenas because then it will never finish. Because Golden State opened up a couple years ago, I guess now, but haven't been to that one. I was at the old arena, and then Sacramento opened up their arena, and now the Intuit Dome in LA as well too. So, our list is going to be forever expansive, but we got to figure it out. As our guys on GI say, we got to fly up the 19, fill up the 19 jet, and then see
exactly.
what we can get out.
Absolutely, and it's obviously you, the Ric Flair of it all. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Limousine riding, Space Mountain. My man Shaw. Anyway, we got a great show up on tap. We got a couple of things to talk about from what we've been able to observe over the first week of NBA basketball action. And then also, one of the, I guess it's trending, what we consider trending things, right? Trending things. If people were paying attention to was the Miami Heat's dedication to Dwyane Wade, sure. paying homage or homage paying. Homage. I don't know what to call this. But anyway, we're going to get into that as well, too. And we're going to speak on one thing that I think is really interesting about what we've been seeing already the first week. Which team do we should be hitting that panic button for already? And it's only been, 1 week into the NBA? Got two teams that we want to kind of get into on who we should be panicking a little bit more. So great show on tap. As always, be sure to get my man Shaw, Astro Sports NBA. Get at me at Game Face Lead, the show's Twitter handle at NBA Baseline. Available on all the major platforms, so you know where to find us. Go to www.thebaselinenba.com to not only check out this episode, but also the archive of great episodes that we've been dropping. If you haven't caught up with our previews, we still got that. You know what I'm saying? It's early in the season, so it ain't like you're losing out. Definitely go check out those episodes. Great content, great discussions. Our fantasy listeners have great have a great show leading up to the NBA season with our man Robin on that, man. So we got a lot of great content for our listeners, the new ones who haven't been introduced to our style, our steez. Be sure to go check out that on www.thebaselinenba.com. And as always, when you see us on the YouTube channel, you see us in the blue and white logo. That's the 19 Media Group family. So be sure to check out the 19 Media Group, www.19mediagroup.com. Us, our family of content creators. My man Shaw just listed it off. Gimmick Infringement. My man Shaw, even in his show, dope interviews, our peoples all across the board with great content to deliver. So be sure to go to 19mediagroup.com in order to check not just us, but the family of great content creators out there. All right, Shaw. So let's get right into it real quick here. I am very curious, from your perspective, which team we should be hitting the panic button most, the Denver Nuggets or the Sacramento Kings?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because we did our Western Conference preview not too long ago, right? And I don't know if I said it or if I didn't have, maybe I had the gumption or courage to say it on camera, but no, I did. I was like, the Nuggets worry me a little bit, like I just felt like they had lost a little bit too much, and I'm kind of elevating them. I rank them third still, kind of out of respect for Joker, and that still very much can be how the cadence of this season goes. But if you're asking me right now today, who's looked worse even than I thought they would at this point, it would be the Nuggets. Sacramento, like they got to figure out the DeRozan piece and like really instituting him into that. And I think they'll be better, 5-10 games from now. So a slow start isn't that alarming to me, despite the talent that's brought in. But Denver, I was concerned about going in. I thought the bench was just too shallow in general. And I didn't know if Braun and Strother and guys like that would really be able to step up in that. So that's my answer right now, dog. Like, I'm concerned about the Nuggets. I was concerned about them going into the season, and they've done nothing to alleviate my concerns here in the first week of the NBA season.
So it's when I was thinking about this, I think part of it wasn't predicated on just the fact that they're winless. Both teams, going into us having this conversation, and who knows, that might change itself, when the episode drops and everything like that. I think what I was more concerned about is the aura around this particular team, like the perception of what people are saying, that really drew me to having to ask this question. Because when I look at the Sacramento Kings, one of the things that we were talking about, Shaw, is it's hard to like walk away from what the Kings have naturally elevated themselves to. Like, they are supposed to be a good basketball team. But this team is a roller coaster ride. Just when you start hailing them up, they figure out a way to let you down. And then when you're down on them, they figure out a way to run off, a series of wins and make you get this interpretation that they should be taken seriously up until they, match up against teams that are either going to just be bigger than them or against teams that actually counter them for how they play, their style of play, right? Ergo, play against the Golden State Warriors, all right? But what's interesting to me, Shaw, is the perception about the Denver Nuggets and just the fact that everyone is basically saying this team looks and plays slow and old, which is hard to imagine because when you look at the roster, they're not old, right? Like, they don't have LeBron, you know what I'm saying? But even when I watch how the Denver Nuggets matched up against the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? They really do look like they're either out of step, archaic, or they just don't look like that team that we saw 2 years ago removed from winning an NBA championship. And I think the greater concern will be, Yeah, Jokic is fine, and I think I'm not worried about whether or not this is a team that will go out and win basketball games. I think they're just too experienced to do it. I think my concern, though, is the players who we say that need to step up and get better look like they actually are a step slower, or look like they're still not 100% all in. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they are 100% healthy. Jamal Murray, when I say healthy, I'm not even talking about physical health. I'm also talking about being, there holistically. Aaron Gordon is going through off-season situation with his family,
Sure.
and I'm not saying that to make excuses. What I'm just saying is I feel like there are greater things that are kind of circling around the Denver Nuggets that might impact us believing that they are as equally good, will be good as what they've shown us over the last few seasons.
Well, yeah, and truth be told to our listeners, like this could come out and they win because they're playing right now as we're speaking. But they're playing the Toronto Raptors. So that should be a win.
And that
Toronto's
could be
not
a
a good
good, yeah,
basketball
it could
team.
be a get right game, but it could also have been a trap game as well too, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I think there's legitimate concern from that. All the things you mentioned are truly important. The human aspect of what these players go through sometimes carries over into what they do on the court, and we don't always want to acknowledge that. But Aaron Gordon, as you allude to, has had a very very rough summer. So yeah, he's trying to be in the mental mind
Portis Jr.
space to be the teammate he needs to be. And I wouldn't even say like he was a borderline all-star a couple of years ago, but he can't get back to that. And whatever's going on with Jamal Murray, like got the extension, great, awesome. But I don't think anybody's felt like he's looked right since maybe like May. Like it just hasn't looked like him. And even in the Olympics, playing for Team Canada, like there was some weird things going on there. And they need him. Like he literally is like the number 2 guy there on that roster. And then you have, Michael Malone come out and say, hey, the loss of KCP, maybe not in so uncertain terms, but is more of a management decision. It wasn't a coach's decision. You're already starting to see some fraying, if you will, of that, because I think he sees the trouble down the road here. Like, hey, we're not the same team, and we don't have the same talent. I'm not going to be able to coach everybody up in the same way to be at the level that they were just a few seasons ago. While
Right.
Jokic is always going to be in the MVP conversation, there's only so much he can do in a much improved Western Conference. I don't want to bring Laker Cal out right now, but you see their counterparts out there 3-0, JJ Redick. Again, as we record, they had 3 home games now. Let's keep it a buck on that. But anyway, they look like a team that could make a move, as you I think so boldly predicted. So Denver cannot be taking any games off, and they've got to figure it out here in short order. And you talked about their pace. Literally, it's 2 games. I understand, but they're 30th. They're 30th in offensive rating right now. I think 27th in pace. The defense has been solid in the 2 games, but we'll see how things go for the rest of this week before we fully push the panic button.
I listen, you bring up some really, really good points. I think what was also interesting that Mike Malone, I don't know, seemed to have been much more vested with the younger players during their championship run than what I'm seeing right now. Like Christian Vaughn, Peyton Watson, these guys, well, maybe not Watson because he's basically, a year removed. But Braun, I would have thought at this particular moment, right? Like the idea of allowing KCP to go is because you're supposed to have confidence that Braun is taking that next step. Like he is basically supposed to be the replacement for KCP. Now you can't replace KCP's clutch 3-and-D, play, right? Like he was so instrumental. But just so was Jeff Green, right? And they were able to figure out a way to supplement losing Green, even though we said that, losing Green and losing a couple of other role players like Bruce Brown and those guys, they couldn't completely make up for it, which is where their downfall was, is they had nothing left to get from their starters and had nothing left in their bench. But I think part of that goes back to Malone and what his emphasis is on, right? Like, is the emphasis more about really extracting every last drop from what you're getting from your starters and just completely leaving everything to chance for your bench, or really focusing on the fact that he's going to burn out his starters? You know what I'm saying? Jokic is the kind of player where, yeah, he can be deliberate, he can dictate, but you know what I'm saying? Like you're smoking on your own supply. If you even think that you can only ride Jokic for so long, teams have loaded up to deal with a Jokic, which means that you're now relying on the rest of those other guys to step up and make up that ground, so to speak, which is clear that it's not happening. It hasn't happened for Michael Porter Jr. It's not happening for Jamal Murray because he obviously is not 100%. And you're only going to get this so much from Aaron Gordon. Like, Aaron Gordon is a great complementary player, but to ask him to, do what he gave you when he, was so MVP like in the finals, he's not capable of giving that to you through the course of an 82 game season. And in recognizing that, you got to have a bench that's going to be able to come in and supplement a lot of what you're not going to see with consistency. And I thought that that's where the magic was with Malone. And we're just not seeing that even in the early outset, because he usually has a counter when he knows that his team, from a talent perspective, may not match up as well with some of these other teams now that are formidable in the Western Conference.
Yeah, well, first of all, we got to resist the urge to call Christian Braun. His name is Christian Brown. Like, can't say it the way that it looks.
I like to call him Braun. Give him a little bit of, a little oomph, but okay.
Well, he might need a little Braun if he's going to, make it through the rest of this regular season and elevate them in some ways. But the guy who you love to pick on, and you just kind of casually glanced over his name here today, and I'm a little surprised. But Michael Porter Jr., like this is your time to shine, my guy. Like, MPJ, listen, in these early struggles with Jamal Murray trying to figure it out, hasn't looked right. Michael Porter Jr. be like, you know what? He should be like, yo, it's my turn. And in some ways, before you jump in some ways, let me admit this. That might not be fair, because we've always said, hey, MPJ, you got to play a role. You got to be the third string guy. You can't be looking for your shot too much, whatever the case would be. But I think the makeup of a star player in their role is understanding, like, well, no, now it is my time. Now they need me to do some of these things. And not that you can always turn it on like a light switch, but we'll see. And, 2 losses. OKC is one of the better teams in the Western Conference. I picked them to win the West. So them, smacking the Nuggets isn't that of a big much surprise to me, especially early on. The loss against the Clippers, something to be concerned about. Clippers team is a little bit more plucky than I thought they would be. Shout out to Zubac and the James Harden combination there. But ultimately, this Nuggets team has a lot to figure out there. And before you jump in, the Russell Westbrook experience is off to a tragic start in the first 2 games.
Off to a very, very tragic start. But I think part of that again is Malone. I think part of that is how Malone is trying to utilize him, and what I think maybe even Westbrook anticipated and accepted. I will say this though. I think that if you're Mike Malone, you have to take a serious long look at maybe injecting Russell Westbrook into that starting lineup, because if you're not, I know that's brutal, but what I'm saying is it's not sustainable with Christian Brown and Jamal Murray as your point guard, shooting guard. And I honestly feel like I think you may need to get Murray off the ball a little bit. Now, that's if the discipline is there for Russell Westbrook as a guard to understand the responsibility of getting those guys in a position, but helping to pick the pace up. Because if there's anyone that's on that basketball court that knows how to pick up a pace when necessary, it's Russell Westbrook. So I'm going to refrain myself from, getting in on, MPJR. Okay. I'm not going to do it. There's plenty of season. Listen, man, he ain't going to disappoint. He going to find a reason to bring this out of me. You know what I'm saying? But it's kind of like, I don't know if you watched that Disney show, She-Hulk.
Unfortunately,
you remember when Abomination was inside the chamber? Yeah. And listen, man, I know I got it in me. I can show you, but I'm trying to tell you, I'm controlling, I'm working on it. You know what I'm saying? I am trying to find my namaste. All right. Listen, final thoughts about this, Shaw, and I'll bring this back over to the Sacramento Kings. The Sacramento Kings, to me, are the kind of team where they can ill afford to lose opportunities to stay with teams that are very much established and savvy and heady in their ability to know when to win especially when they go through struggles. And I think Brown has to figure that out quickly because it can spiral out of control. They had the luxury of dealing with the Clippers and the Suns last year that were so up and down, that were always injury ridden and everything like that. I think with Budenholzer, and you spoke about this in the preview, and now even with what Tyronn Lue is working with, now that the drama of Paul George is kind of gone. I mean, you can call it for what it is. He would rather deal with a Kawhi Leonard situation than deal with the Paul George situation because you don't know what you can extract from someone who already had one foot out the door, essentially. And he understood that because he knows management. He knows what they were willing to pay him and not pay him. So he knows, like, look, it is a blessing in disguise if I can get Kawhi Leonard for maybe 50% of this season. But I know who I'm going to be coaching with on a night in, night out basis, which is why you're seeing the kind of productivity you're getting from Harden and from Powell and from Zubac. Collectively, if they're like this, this is a good Clippers basketball team. And if you're the Sacramento Kings, you can't afford to be behind the 8 ball, especially in games that you really should be able to stay with when, and you know that you're not. Because really, who's the only other team that you could be looking down to? The Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
And they've proven that they don't know how to get past them cats, So
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll just close with the Sacramento point of, they know what it means. They've had a lot of unsuccessful seasons, and so they've been good here for the last 3 years, and at least in the playoffs or on the cusp of. And it's going to take some time here to, I think, work the DeRozan aspect into what they want to do for that to be a winning combination. Like I said, they're killing it with Flyer with more offense and even some secondary playmaking there, but they don't have the defensive chops yet. And Mike Brown is going to have to kind of Rick Carlisle the situation early, like last year with the Pacers. Remember, the Pacers were scoring 130, 140 the first half of the year. They're like, this is not sustainable. we've got to figure out a way to defend. And I think Mike Brown, while he knows that, is going to have to remedy that sooner than later, especially with DeRozan now in the fold.
Absolutely. You're tuned to The Baseline. Callie Warren Shaw discussing the hot button topics of the NBA. Coming up, we got a lot more stuff to get into, discussing stuff happening in the association, including D Wade's grand ceremonious moment. The city of Miami or the Miami Heat organization busting them up something lovely. So we'll get into that. But first, the NBA is finally back. A new season means new ways to get into the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sport betting partner of the NBA. Who's draining threes from beyond the arc? Who's crashing the boards and grabbing rebounds? Get behind your favorite players in the prop bets you can make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player props. First time, new DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Every point counts with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code BASELINE. That's code BASELINE for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-78-97777 or visit ccpg.org. Play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms of responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/bball. More Baseline. Callie Warren Shaw. Don't go away. This segment of the Baseline is brought to you by League Pass. Are you craving nonstop hoop action? NBA League Pass is your ticket to the ultimate basketball experience. Enjoy live games, on-demand replays, and exclusive behind-the-scenes content across a variety of devices. With NBA League Pass, you'll get more. More games, we're talking regular season and select playoff matchups, more features, including multi-view angles, in-depth stat, and behind-the-scenes stories. More access, catch your favorite teams and players anytime, anywhere. Stay up with the NBA like the Baseline does. League Pass is for fans who live the game. Sign up now and type at link.nba.com/LP19MG. All right, Shaw. Let's get right into some of these news and notes happening in the association. interesting comments that were made just as the NBA season was about to start. And I know we didn't get an opportunity to talk on this, but I do find it kind of interesting because it just suddenly like raised the hair and receding hairlines of like all the OG NBA players, and probably some new the new G's of the NBA felt some kind of way regarding Joel Embiid's um declaration, so to speak, about how he will not be playing or does not see himself playing in back-to-back games as slated, on the current NBA schedule for Philadelphia 76ers. And I really wanted to get your perspective from this as well, too, because I do see a lot of the anger and the frustration from a lot of the players. At the same time, I feel like it's hard to determine whether or not a lot of it is just fodder for the TV, general resentment because of the status as Joel Embiid represents that new generation of NBA players, and what new NBA, that new generation, that next generation that he represents, do they align with what's going on with him, sympathize with him about why he had to make that statement? You know what I mean? Or is it speaking more to the climate, the atmosphere of where the current NBA is and how these type of decisions are impacting or influencing, the kind of decisions that players are making?
I think players in general are put off that a perennial MVP candidate would be in this mind space to say that at this time in the beginning of the year, after getting uh, a complimentary player, like Paul George, in the space that has been there to be able to take some pressure off of him. And not that you rest in games per se, but we all know players take some possessions off and those types of things. And with Maxi and PG there, it just seems a little bit strange to make that level of a statement. And I think that's what is part of the rub here. I think for some of the older veteran guys, who didn't have what Embiid has, they didn't have the talent, but also they don't have the payday. And it's like, it's a little bit of like, well, dang, man, like, yeah, we're not trying to watch people's pockets, but you get paid $1 billion to be out there. So how is this going to be the cadence of your season to say now that you will not be out there for the rest of your career playing back to backs? And we touched on this on the last show, and what that really meant, like, hey, if you're playing to the top teams in the East or the West back to back, are you really just going to sit out just because, well, it's the second night of the back to back? If it's a playoff race and seeding matters, like you figured he'd be out there. But Joel is known for striking chords. He knows how to get the people going, as we say. And I don't know how much actual truth there is to that. I mean, it's a very lofty statement to say for the rest of your career. But when you say it like that, people have to take you at your word. And I think what you're alluding to is that, other players are just like, well, that's just ridiculous given what he means to them, what he means to the league as well, too. Right. And fans who want to come and watch him. There's all those angles, there's all these aspects. But Joel and the Sixers are just trying to be healthy. And he hasn't had that. He hasn't been healthy for a sustained playoff run. And so while I can be mindful of why he's saying what he's saying and the methodology that there's probably some truth to this, I'm still dubious as to like, well, this is really what's going to happen here, especially for the rest of his career. That just seems so ridiculous to say at this stage.
So there's so many things to unpack, and I know we don't have a whole lot of time to do this. But the reason why I brought this topic to the forefront for us, Shaw, is because it opens up a very interesting conversation that I think we'll have down the road about where the new generation really is in this openness of speaking your truth. And at some point, you have to start wondering, is the truth that you're speaking the truth that is meant to awaken people? Is it meant to assert eyes? Like you said, sometimes Joel likes to poke the bear. You know what I mean? Or is it meant to, awaken the consciousness of, what we have to start thinking about? I will say this. It does not help Joel Embiid to be making a statement like that, and LeBron James is still actively playing in the NBA. if you're Joel Embiid, a lot of people have already questioned your dedication to the game of basketball, because look how long it literally took you before it really dawned on you that in order for you to win that MVP, you needed to take better care of yourself in the off season. You needed to condition yourself in the off season to prepare you to at least play the requisite number of games as healthy as possible to position yourself to win that coveted title that you were griping about for so long, right? And when you see a person like a LeBron James who invests millions of dollars, he's not doing it for the sake of just, hey, I think it's cool because, I can own a supplement company and I can. No, he's doing it because he is the living example of what it's going to take if you're going to be of this kind of ilk of greatness. Look at Kevin Durant. People can say what they want to say. Kevin Durant has suffered some gruesome injuries, bro. But even he will tell you he does not get to play with the longevity that he plays if he doesn't do what's necessary to take care of his body. You know what I'm saying? And
but hold on, but you're talking about guys, and to coin JJ Redick's term, they're sickos. Like Durant and LeBron are sickos. Like they love the game, and I'm not questioning Joel Embiid's overall passion, but I don't think he's a sicko in the mode of Durant and LeBron. Like, you know what I mean? Like the love is not the same. Not that he doesn't love it, but it's not nearly on the same level. And I'm not excusing that, but I think we're talking about two different animals here.
We are talking about two different animals. However, in the class of animals, you understand who ultimately rules the jungle. He set the bar. At the very least, if you don't want to be affiliated, if you don't want to be associated with that ilk of family, then you got to clarify your statements when you present your own perspective. Like if you want to carve out a name for yourself, you got to make sure that you're individually carving out a name for yourself so that you're not being maligned to what the bar has been set to, unfortunately, because it isn't as if Joel Embiid is the elder statesman that represents the NBA. Far from it. You know what I'm saying? And you can make the argument still that Nikola Jokic is still a better big than Joel Embiid, because Jokic has proven to be a more sustainable, reliable big in the NBA, right? As an international star, and it feels like at times Joel Embiid is just kind of like a mercenary.
Yeah.
You need me for something, I'll come and do it. Whatever it is, it's going to elevate my likability. So anyway, long story short, y'all, I don't have a problem with Joel Embiid expressing himself maybe within the organization, maybe within his family members. But when you outwardly express yourself in the position that you're in, that this is the line in the sand that you're drawing about where you are with your health and how you see yourself taking care of yourself and stuff like that, you had better make sure you distinguish and you clarify where that perspective is coming from, because you have a lot of players, old and new, to your point, that now has to speak into the existence of, oh, is this how the modern NBA player thinks? And listen, let me also, I'm going to play devil's advocate real quick, Shaw. I'm throwing this out there so it's understood. This doesn't happen unless the NBA capitulates to the demands of what the NBA players and the union have asked for the longest time, right? There has been a mandate set that they are going to make sure that they keep the players satisfied and happy, okay? And in doing that, it started this trend. I'm not blaming them. I'm saying this is where the climate is right now. So when you have players taking it another step further by outwardly saying something like this, it's almost making it sound like Silver sitting in it. Well, damn, man, what else do you want me to do for you? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, what else more do you want us to do for the players? And if you're a player, do you really want that? You know what I'm saying? When you have to go back to the negotiating table and start talking about give and take certain things that you're willing to concede to and not concede to. I'm just saying Joel Embiid has to be a little bit more careful where he comes off with this.
Well, it opens up a can of worms for me. Two things, and just jump off of this really quickly. a lot of fans compare NBA players like to their personal lives, right? Or their jobs. It's not the same. Like it's not the same situation, but it's the common aspect of like, well, this guy, goes to work, he plays basketball, whatever. Um, but there is an aspect of that these players in the player empowerment area do want to make more money and work less. Like that part of it is true. Now, I understand it's not apples to apples from what you and I do on a day-to-day basis, but that's it. They want less games, they want to be paid more, and they want to work less in general. So that's kind of the underlying thing here that I think is a lot of that's very frustrating for fans and some of these older players that you're talking about. Like, damn, I didn't get paid nearly as much as you do, and I worked my ass off. And we played 4 games in 5 nights. And while that's not Joel Embiid's fault, that things have finally caught up generationally and understanding what the science is behind doing those things. But the raw part of that is still what it is. But the flip side is if they're not making more money, I'm not suggesting that they need to work less, but if they're not making more money, then the billionaire governors continue to just bank all of that, really, at the end of the day. And so while there's always like this constant push pull between the the governorships and the players, is like, all right, well, we know the BRI and all those other things too that go into the salary cap. Into the labor agreement, if you will. All those things are constantly kind of in flux, but somebody's going to get this money. So the player's like, well, why not us? Even if it does mean that we're not going to play as much, because otherwise billionaire governors continue to just, bank on that, and the rich get richer. And that's not something that I think even the common fan, if you will, would be in agreement with. So I don't really know where the line is there, but I do know that I think Joel Embiid should play and try to be on the court more, if nothing else, for the mere fact that paying fans want to see him on the floor.
Oh no, absolutely, totally. And then you just don't want to be pissing off KG. KG with sunglasses. You just don't want to be that guy. Yeah. just don't want to be that guy. All right, Shaw. Final topic, man. And I waited to the end for this one. So the Miami Heat organization unveiled the first ever statue of, one of their, one of the most beloved players, athletes in South Florida, ever, right? And they unveiled a statue of Dwyane Wade, the iconic moment when he jumped on the announcer's table, the scoreboard's table, saying, "This is my house." You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I run Wade County. Iconic moment. And it was such a moment too that like it left D Wade with his jaw dropping to the floor, but not because, at least we believe, and I think everybody believes, not because he was so, gobsmacked at the that they're willing to go this far and celebrate him. No, man. I think he was gobsmacked at the fact that whoever created this statue, whoever created this bust, whoever created this iconic moment, made it even more iconic by reminding us sometimes doing too damn much. And if you ain't going to do it right, don't do it at all.
Yeah. For our YouTubers, yeah. Even D Wade was like, what? Who is this guy? Like, that's literally what he said. I'm not sure. The internet is way.
You know what that reminds me of, Shaw? Do you know what that reminds me of? Do you remember the movies, the Star Wars movies? Do you remember when they froze Han Solo
in Jabba's hut? Yes.
In Jabba's hut, right?
Damn. Yeah, they have to Mala chamber this guy.
Even that looked better than what they just did to D Wade, man. Like, I'm just saying, that's just.
They said, he's looked like a broken down Thanos. There's all kinds because of the chin and the way the chin.
Do this and make that thing disappear, like.
Yeah, shouts to any artist, who puts their heart and soul into a project. And while we are having a little bit of fun here, I can't imagine what that artist is going through right now,
It's
understanding
gonna be
that
worth
the
a lot of money.
likeliness.
It's gonna
Well,
be
I
worth
mean,
a lot of
but
money no matter how you
there's a bunch
slice
of
it.
decision makers here, right? Like we talk about being in the real world of work all the time, and at some point, somebody was at the table and was like, "Yes, let's do that." Like there was renderings; they weren't surprised. You know what I mean? It wasn't just like all of a sudden, "Oh, here it is today." Like we had no idea what it was going to look like. Somebody signed off on this, and for Heat culture to be as Heat culture as it is, and so proud for them in essence to mess this up is very amusing to me. And I think Wade took it with good spirit and good stride. It's bad if my wife, who could give two craps about what's going on in the NBA, it's on her Instagram. And she's like, "Yo, what happened here?" So that's all I got to say about that.
I will say this much. Listen, I respect it because we are artists, right? We create, you and I, we've been creating for a very long time, Shaw. You
Sure.
know what I'm saying? And I'm sure whoever this artist is and his team and what they envisioned, what they wanted to do, I give them all the credit in the world for attempting, because when you really think about it, Shaw, that is not an easy a moment to capture in a statue format. So there obviously was an ambitious move or ambitious play to try to replicate that, because if you really think about it, that moment in itself needs something a little bit more solid than just him looking like he's elevated in a cryo chamber space of like, there needs to be something flat underneath him, something, what I'm saying, like something that kind of brings more of the background of that moment in and of itself. Because even if you're trying to create the bust of Dwyane Wade and that facial expression and everything like that, you didn't even have to go that far. But certainly, again, where it was missed, I think part of it is the idea that, if this is not something that you do, if this is not something that then make sure, like I would have tested it with somebody else. Do a Ronnie Cycli, do Alonzo Mourning before you do Dwyane Wade, yo. Like,
Wow.
I'm just saying, test someone else out in D Wade, man.
That's what I'm saying, though. I mean, this is where they missed was like there should have been some sort of a focus group. It's like, all right, if we go with this, what is the likeliness that like this is going to be accepted? So, while you were, waxing poetic, I had to look it up. So shout out to Omri Amrani, and Oscar Leone. They are the co-creators of said statute. And I don't know that they'll be commissioned for NBA work ever again, but they are successful artists in their own right. So shouts to them, and we wish them the best in whatever the next endeavor will be. But I do not think it will be a replica of the Wade statue.
Probably not in the NBA space. I'm sure, though, they will be called upon for some football spaces.
Oh, well, yeah.
Because,
football
Tyreek Hill may be due, right?
Well, I got to be the South Florida guy.
No, what is it? Mike McDonald?
Take this. All right.
Okay. Listen, man, great show. Some good stuff that we obviously wanted to get into with regards to everything happening already as the NBA season is in its infantile stages, so to speak. But good stuff altogether, brother.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So can't wait to kind of tap back in to the cadence of this regular season. We are full speed ahead as always. So I'm always looking for our fans and listeners to tap in with us. Let us know what their thoughts are. Who's the most disappointing teams that they've seen? Are they down on the Nuggets? Are they down on the Kings? Are they worried at all? Or nothing to see here?
And the Washington
definitely want to get their thoughts.
Count. The Wizards don't count.
Never, they never count. But we definitely love to get people's thoughts on the D Wade statue. Just drop it in the comments what you think. And I really do like the Han Solo reference there. I think that's a one. That's one of your best ones, my guy.
Thank you. I sincerely appreciate it. For the baseline, Cali, Warren Shaw, we appreciate everybody for hopping on board with us this week, and we'll catch up with you next time.